skills, and abilities you bring that will best serve our community?
Candidates, this is the little timer. When it's green, you can talk. When you have 45 seconds, and when you have 15 seconds, it'll go yellow. And when you're done, it'll go red and it's beep. I'll let you finish your breath. But otherwise, I'll go time's up. And we'll go like that.
Nick, do you want me to repeat the question? Yeah. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what specific knowledge, skills, and abilities you bring that will best serve our community.
Hi, I'm Nick Walsh. I'm a 12-year resident of Peachland. I'm a retired policy analyst with 35 years experience in the Ministry of Attorney General. I'm a resident who cares deeply about Peachland's future and the watershed and our infrastructure in particular. I've observed politics in Peachland since the day I got here, and I think I've got it figured out now. Much of what you will hear tonight from me is about administrative frameworks, comprehensive modeling, and citizen-supported sequencing. And to that end, I can't say much more in 10 seconds, but drop around to my table.
Eric, do the candidates want me to repeat the question, or are you good to go? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My wife and I bought our house in Peachland in 1997, and we moved there soon afterwards. We actually bought an apartment in Kelowna. It was our daughter and her two sons moving into our house. It's a temporary thing, and we expect to move back soon, but how that evolves, I'm not exactly sure on the dates, but we consider Peachland our home. When we've been involved in Peachland over the years, we were involved in a little schoolhouse. I was the backup editor of the Peachland View. In terms of qualifications, well, I spent 3 years on council, and I'm familiar with all the local government legislation and the council processes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Adi. Running for council in a small town is like inviting your family for dinner. Everybody knows you already, and everybody's got an opinion. So my position with coming and wanting to do this is to help, to listen, and what I like to do is just simply listen to what it is that you need. My background is in business. I have worked in business, and I want to bring that knowledge into this beautiful community of ours. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow Peachlanders. My name is Chris Richardson. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thanks to the Peachland Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. I love Peachland. It's home, and I want to serve my neighbors in what I believe is the most beautiful community of Okanagan, and one of the kindest. I'm a solutions-oriented person, and in my career in the film industry, my job was fairly simple. It was to make it work with the time, space, and resources available. That practical common sense mindset is what I bring to my life, and if elected to council. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm George. I've been a member of Peachland here since 1991 when I first came out. Actually grew my family here, have 4 children, and I've been a great part of the community as far as working, volunteering, and I'm an ear to everybody out there listening, and with my years and experiences being in business here and volunteering with the fire department and whatnot, I think I have a unique view towards some of the things that need to be dealt with in town. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question, we'll start with Eric and move along down the line. The second question, if elected, you will have a short time before the main election to get up to speed with the formalities of office. What would be one signature issue you would like to attempt to make an impact on in this short time frame?
Yeah, thank you very much. Roughly 45 seconds, but I guess downtown concerns me. We had this survey with urban systems where people were asked about downtown. The message back was let's go carefully. We've had a report to council suggesting 5-story buildings on Beach Avenue. I don't think that's what the community wants. They talk about, well, it's setbacks, but setbacks can be varied. So I have a concern about downtown, and members of council did identify the big issue that's becoming more and more important, that's parking. So with downtown development, I'm not in a rush to densify downtown. I think we have to go very carefully, and that's an issue that is very important to me.
Well, downtown has been on everybody's mind for a long time. So for me also is something that I've heard from everybody. The concern is that buildings on beach should not be taller than 2 stories, and from my understanding, the council has already addressed that. So 2 stories on beach, 6 meters back, 3 stories, and behind that is 6. So that's happening. But so we have to realize that the buildings are aging. We need to address that growth. Council can only provide the scope. After that, it's up to the owners of the properties. So I know that we want to keep the character and charm of Peachland, and I will support that. That's what I want to do.
I would say that the most important thing that I would like to be involved in is to build a fire hall. There's no question that we need it. It's good that we will do it on the land that we already own. My background is in film construction, so everything I've ever built doesn't last more than about a month or two, and then we pull it down. So I would be really honored to be involved in something that's going to be around for a few years.
Much like Chris, with my background with the fire department, I spent 15 years with the fire department. I have a great idea of what they need and what's required, and I would like to have that settled by October, at least have some kind of plan that's going to stick with us, that works for us, for our community as a whole. Maybe not such a big place, just the place that we need. And anything's an improvement if you see the hall that we have right now. Thank you.
It really doesn't matter what I want. I want what you want. And the core of my proposal is always going to be citizen-supported sequencing. So in that respect, I spent 12 years trying to figure out what you want in this town, and I think I've got it figured out. I have, over the last year, developed a blueprint that will make it work. A carpenter or a builder doesn't show up to a building site with a truck and a pile of lumber and start nailing it. He shows up with a blueprint and he starts building, and the inspector is you, the citizen-supported sequencing. You are the final inspectors. That's what I want.
Thank you. So I know there's been some talk about the 45-second limit. We've tried to create questions that allow some room to expand on some of the thoughts that we've already had. So there may be some duplication, as obviously we don't know what the answers are going to be before we ask the questions. The next question is, we'll start with Ali. Ali, what in your view is the biggest challenge facing Peachland in the short term? And what would be one policy you would support to alleviate that challenge?
The biggest challenge that we have right now is that we are limited by our budgets. We have to be fiscally responsible for whatever we spend and how we spend it. The reality is that our taxpayer base is small. We need to address the way that the money is spent And in general, the biggest contributor to our budget needs to come from grants, needs to come from wherever we can put our elbows out and make our fair share in the province.
Yeah, I would say that we really have to increase the tax base. So we need limited growth that will allow that. I think that it's important that we can figure out a way to develop it more of a winter economy, so it's not this boom and bust. I know that a lot of businesses here starve during the winter, and we can come up with some sort of incentives, I suppose. That would go a long way to help people, I think, and increase our tax base.
Yes. George, what in your view is the biggest challenge facing Peachland in the short term? And what would be one policy you would support to alleviate that challenge?
Well, the biggest challenge for everybody as a community is always the taxes. How we're gonna settle it, where are we gonna save our money? What really is need? Do we need a better walkway? Or do we need changed beachfront? I think we need to prioritize certain things and go over what we really have a need for as a community and be more aware of where our taxes get spent. Thank you.
My biggest priority for Peachland is enabling the great staff that we have in the district of Peachland. And they really are good staff, no matter whether you like their decisions or not. If you haven't liked them, the decisions are not a result of malfeasance. They're a result of a blueprint that hasn't been followed. And I'm getting back to my blueprint again. I spent 12 years developing this blueprint that will enable the great staff in this community to do a job that is fully supported economically and supported by the citizens through the citizen sequencing and administrative frameworks. I'm a solution provider and I can make that work.
Well, the biggest problem Peachland has is a problem that most local governments in British Columbia have. And that is the provincial government has said you have to accept more and more growth. The provincial government is short of money, so they're not providing for the services and the infrastructure. So how do we react to that? And I have to say, this mayor and council has done a good job of applying for grants. And recently we looked at development cost charges. They have to go up. It's unfortunate because we want to keep house prices down. But the mayor said it himself, growth has to pay for itself. So I would support the processes that the mayor and council are trying hard to get money from the provincial government to support growth. And I'm not optimistic it's going to happen anytime soon.
Thank you. We're going to start with Chris on this next question. It's similar to the previous question, but allows a chance to speak on more long term. So the question is, Chris, what in your view is the biggest challenge facing the Peachland in the long term? And what would be one policy you would support to alleviate that challenge?
I would say, in the long term, as part of the OCP, it's considered desirable to turn this into a multi-generational town by, I think it's 2040 or something. So our daycare is a good start, and I think we're going to have to try to find a way to encourage young people to come here and then start building infrastructure for young families in the long term.
I think long term is we need to come up with a clear plan for our sewer system that's been dragging on for quite some time now. I think it's a big question for everybody. How are we going to make this come about? And again, that's another, we're digging into taxes again. So all about. There's nothing further that's been happening for quite some time.
These have all been noble policies, and who could not agree with them? But in the long run, nothing is going to happen unless we change the way we're doing business. I don't want to see us 12 years from now still having outrage politics about decisions that have been made without the input from you, the citizens. You've already won the kindest city in Canada award. How long is it going to be before we win the best run city in the country award? We can do that, but we're going to have to make some changes, and that means we're going to have to adopt the blueprint that puts you in the driver's seat.
So for the long term, I think for the people in Peachland, we need to decide just how big we want to be. You know, it's no coincidence that all the 10 finalists for the kindest communities were small communities. So we've got pressure to grow, and it's a conundrum because how big do we want to be? And when we develop on the hillsides, those people want to come downtown and they want to park. So we've got major issues in how we develop downtown because we're not just servicing the people downtown, we're servicing the people on these hillside developments. So the big decision long term is just how big do we want to be? Will it mean that we're no longer that kind community because we're not small anymore? That's the big issue for the long term.
Same as George, I think I'm going to agree with him. I think sewer is an important matter. The great question, it's a very interesting challenge. I understand that it's being worked on, and from what I've found out is that we right now can't do it on our own. So we need about 25 million to address 1,274 homes to get this done. So the district has 4 million. To get there, we need another 4 million from the Okanagan Watershed Basin Board. And once we have that, then we can apply to the province to get a further 8 million, and then we can go to the federal government and another 8 million to match. So there's work to be done. So those are things that constantly needs to be worked on, and in order to put all these pieces in place, I'm willing to help with that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Question 5, start with George. Question 5, George. Do you think we need to achieve more amenities and facilities for the town, i.e. swimming pool, arena, etc.? And how would you approach that issue?
Well, I think as a family man, I believe that more amenities would certainly be great. Pool, anything like that would be fantastic. I think right now, a lot of people are pushing for the new pickleball. They're working towards that. Now, that's not going to help our youth too much, but the things we can do in the future, we'll have to look towards and work from there, because a big thing that comes down is where are we going to put these things? You want all these units, but where's the property? Where are we going to place all this stuff?
Municipal strength comes from its revenue base. Before we commit taxpayers to long-term debt, we need to grow responsibly. And that responsible aspect comes from citizen involvement. Once again, I hate to be a sounding board for that, but it's time that the citizens have a strong input in what takes place here. And again, I'll go back to my blueprint, because we're not going to solve these problems standing at this desk talking. We need to have a blueprint that works, and we need to ensure that everyone has input and that it's executed professionally. If we do that, it will take care of our problems in the long run.
Well, a swimming pool and arena would be great. But I kind of figure we do already have it very much club. And you know, when I play pickleball, half the people on the court with me, they're not from West Club. So we cooperate services that they use, and we're going to be using their services. I don't see in the near future the chance to build swimming pools or arenas, but I do see that the need is to cooperate with other governments, particularly West Columbia, to make sure that it makes sense as the greater Peachland, if we want to call it that, grows and shares facilities with other governments.
Ali, do you think we need to achieve more amenities, facilities for the town, i.e. swimming pool, arena, etc., and how would you approach that?
I'm all for more and more activities. I'm a co-founder of the Peachland Youth Activity Grant, and I want kids and youth to participate. We need to have them active, otherwise they get in trouble. Having facilities is absolutely necessary. However, as Eric mentioned, perhaps we can share it elsewhere. Having the space to make it, to build one, having the budget to make it, all of those require some reflection. It needs to be studied. There's got to be some serious evaluation whether or not this can be done. I'd like to see it done.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I think we do, I would like to see an ice rink here. I think we're probably the only small town in Canada that doesn't have one. It doesn't have to be a super expensive one, but if it was a multi-use, if it had a gym, if it had a few facilities like that, and possibly near the property where we're building a new daycare by a school, there's a lot of land back there that could possibly serve, and it would sort of dovetail into the Boys and Girls Club. And I think it can be done. It would have to be, we'd have to find grant money to do it. I mean, we obviously can't fund it ourselves, but nothing's impossible. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to question 6. We're going to reverse the order. So, George, we're going to go back to you on this one. Question 6. I know it's been mentioned a little bit, but I think it's a very important topic for Peachland. There's been a lot of time and money spent trying to plan what the future of downtown will look like. Tell us what it looks like in your eyes.
Ooh, that's a big one. Keeping the small town look would be fantastic, but I think inevitably in the end, a lot of the buildings that we have sitting on our beachfront downtown, how much longer are they going to last? How long before we have to change out? What that plan's going to look like in the future is really hard to say. I love it the way it is. I wish it could stay that way forever. But unfortunately, development's going to happen eventually. As we know, there's several properties that are up for sale there right now. Who knows what's going to happen with those out there?
Chris?
My background is in film construction, and you can make buildings look like anything you want to. So if you want new infrastructure in the downtown area, you can certainly have it with a small town look to it. It's really just a function of design. I think that you can allow a certain amount of height in the downtown area, but still keep it the same way it is, which is 3 stories all the way to Todd's. And you can build it to look like anything you want.
Yes, downtown, we need to take care of it. The buildings are getting old, so we do need to have a plan. The council has a scope. That needs to be shared, it needs to be followed, and have the owners buy into it. For me, I like the character of the town. We are a historic town. We have a lot of beautiful areas where we enjoy on a daily basis. But walking up and down the beach, we know that there are some not even that, is electric is our issues and pipes are issues, needs to be done.
Yes, we've talked a lot about Beach Avenue, and I believe we should change the priority. We should be building at the back, because if we build tall at the front, we're just never going to build behind. So my emphasis would be on looking at the buildings near the highway, and we're going to have to allow some height because we need parking. We can't forget the parking issue. There's a proposal to reduce parking. It's not going to work. So if we allow some height at the back near the highway and prioritize that, at some point in the future, Beach Avenue will look after itself.
I spent some time walking up and down Beach Avenue in the last month or so, and I've talked to a few businesses. And we definitely need to attract more retail into downtown Peachland. I think Chris's idea about changing the facade of the buildings is important. And I was thinking the other day, I don't know how Patrick did it, but he managed to convince the snow to stay away this year. So maybe we can divert some of that snow clearing revenue into development funds or renovation funds for the downtown area. But in 45 seconds, I have a blueprint that will help develop the downtown area in a very productive way, and it includes citizen involvement.
Thank you. Going back to Chris, questions kind of seem to be in a good order. Chris, what do you think Peachland can do to better support, retain, and attract new businesses and development? I'll read that again because I stumbled. What do you think Peachland can do better to support, retain, and attract new businesses and development?
I would say that we actually need a hotel here. I think that not a large hotel, but something that's of a medium size that would have some convention ability. Give people a reason to come here in the winter. It's still beautiful here in the winter. And sort of be an anchor of our winter economy. And hopefully the people come and they bring their money and they go to our restaurants and they basically support the town.
We need to make it easy for people to want to do business with us. I think that the approval at the level in the council needs to be maybe a little bit more effective. It needs to be easy to want to come in here. Projects have come in and they have stalled. People have looked at our town and there's a rumor out there that we're not business friendly. We need to change that mindset. It begins in council. And that is probably the biggest hurdle for people wanting to do business with us. So we need to change that.
Yes, Peachland, of course, has limited space for warehousing or industrial. But as regards the businesses that we have, primarily on Beach Avenue, when I was on council, I successfully lobbied to reduce the ratio. Commercial property pays about twice the tax of residential. And I'd like to see that reduced so we could put some emphasis on maybe giving better deals to the businesses. We reduced it from 2 to 1.9. I tried to get it to 1.8, and I felt that was the right direction. If I was elected, I'd revisit that issue, try and bring commercial taxation more in line with residential to give businesses a break.
I think Ali touched on the topic quite well. In a sports analogy, you're not going to attract teams to come and play in your arena unless you have a set of rules. If the rules aren't clear ahead of time, you're not going to attract anybody to come play the game. And so I think what we need to do is develop our framework for doing business in a clear and comprehensive way that, of course, as I said many times tonight, includes citizen input. If those rules are clear, then people can predict what the outcomes will be, and that will attract business.
you want me to repeat the question, George? Okay.
Attracting retail business would be fantastic. I would love to see some stuff here, even more so for the children. There's, there's so many different options. But then, again, Peachland's a small town. Where are these buildings gonna go up? Where's this retail gonna work through? And that's something we gotta look towards as well. Because, without the space, how are these people gonna run these businesses? And when they do come in, we need to cooperate with them, much like Eric said, we need to give them incentives. We need to make it easier for them to come in and operate with our town.
Chris? Oh, Chris started this one? Okay, my bad. Thank you. Question 8 begins with Ali. Peachland is well known as a great tourist destination, but doesn't appear to monetize tourism other than through its businesses. Do you feel that Peachland should try to generate income from tourists for new facilities and or maintenance and repair of public places? If so, how? Peachland is well known as a great tourist destination, but doesn't appear to monetize tourism other than through our businesses. Do you feel that Peachland should try to generate income from tourists for new facilities and or maintenance and repair of public places? If so, how?
Okay, I think what you're trying to say here is that there's been discussion about people coming to Peachland, they're using our boat launches, they're using our facilities, and then, we want to use it, and there's no room for us to operate, and those are, and why not charge them, and residents get a pass, and that's what I think you're trying to talk about. I'm not necessarily in favor of this. I think that there could be, sort of a system where we do have tourists coming, but if they're going to come, they have to come and spend in our restaurants. So possibly with a
Yes, tourism. Well, the problem, as we all know, is we're busy in the summer, quiet in the winter. But let's recognize what we've done. The Beach Avenue Walkway is very popular, not just for people in Peachland. We've recently, Mayor and Council's got the money and helped to complete the trail out to Goats Peak, which I think is going to be more and more popular with hikers and bicycles. And we've had the swim park. We have done things, but it brings people in the summer. What can we do about the winter? Well, I was talking about West Cloud. If the skiing started in West Cloud again, Crystal Mountain, maybe that hotel will be feasible. Because right now, hotels are telling us it's not feasible. So to deal with the winter, a conundrum.
If we want more than we've got, we need to become more than we are. Before we commit taxpayers to long-term debt, we need to grow responsibly. Once the growth happens responsibly and the citizens are involved and engaged in the growth of this community, the rest of these problems will take care of themselves. I've seen this time and time again across the country. We need to get that blueprint firmly entrenched in the operating style of this community, and our problems will be long gone.
George?
Repeat that one.
Peachland is well known as a great tourist destination, but doesn't appear to monetize tourism other than through our businesses. Do you feel that we should try to generate income from tourists for new facilities and or maintenance and repair of public places? If so, how?
Okay, so tourism has been a fantastic thing for us here. We draw people in from all angles. People come from West Bank, Summerland, they all want to enjoy our walkway, put a lot of work into it, our boardwalks. As far as generating income from it, that's not where the business is. I don't really see how's the city going to start working that in. Do we throw private events where we charge tickets? Maybe because we have the concert area. Maybe we have to sell tickets for different things, and we can generate income that way. We have the movies. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I presume the question is that how is the district gonna generate money that doesn't come through our businesses? So are we talking about user pays for boat launch or for parking? Generally not in favor of that. I think it's good that some things are free. So that's a tough question. A room tax on the hotel, but again, that's the business.
Thank you. Okay, going to question 9, starting with Eric. Are you in favor of Peachland entering into public-private partnerships in order to fund capital works? Please explain.
I guess everyone's thinking of the fire hall, and it's easy to criticize mayor and council, but I guess I was disappointed by the way that took place. I think that the key issue for me was, we have a lot of people in Peachland with a history of business, a lot of entrepreneurs, so we're good with encouraging private partnerships. But I think the process has to be open. You have to understand it from day one. You have to see the numbers. So I'm not against cooperating with private enterprise to build things. I just feel like we've got to be completely open about the process.
Yeah, the B3 thing was a big issue with me a month ago. I did a massive study and wrote a 12-page report on it, published it, and sent it to the council. And interestingly, 10 days after I published it, they had an in-camera meeting, reversed everything, and went back to the standard format. The problem with a B3 is it encourages more in-camera meetings. And in-camera meetings is the last thing I want to see the council getting involved in. I want more people involved, more citizens involved, and fewer in-council meetings. In-camera meetings.
George? Are you in favor of Peachland entering into public-private partnerships in order to fund capital works? Explain.
That's really tough one for me. I really haven't looked into that any further, but I know there has been a lot of problems with the way things were dealt with the fire department's situation. And definitely would be something I would have to look further into to answer it fairly.
Chris?
Yes, I think it's important. I think any kind of funding these days is P3. Obviously, all the different situations are going to have to be examined on their own merit. There has to be something for the private sector for them. So it's not just kind of like it. But yeah, I think that is the way that we generate
Absolutely. I think that if it makes sense, why not? There has, we see this all over the place. You see this with arenas elsewhere. If we can give them value and they can give us what we need, why not? It makes sense. Nowadays, that's how things run. And so big business, they have budgets that they allocate to things that could be beneficial for us. I would be in favor to actually look at it. Has to make sense for both sides. Why not?
Thank you. We're at our final question, going back to Nick. Question 10, Nick. What steps will you take to ensure that you, as a councillor, and council in general, will remain transparent and accountable to Peachland residents?
Well, that's what I've been talking about all night, transparency. Like, this P3 thing really bothers me. The P3 mechanism is a ticket for a lack of transparency. The minute you go into P3, it allows the council to do all kinds of things in camera. You, the citizens, are left to react after the decision has been made. So then I go onto social media and find out everybody's mad at some decision that was made, that they had no input on. Absolutely, I will oppose P3 to my last breath.
Hold on, Aaron. I think it goes to, yeah. From your question, what steps will you take to ensure that you, as a councillor, and council in general, will remain transparent and accountable to Peachland residents?
Well, the big step is to be out there talking to everybody. Be face to face. Get out there and listen to what everybody out here actually has to say. I think the biggest thing is to make myself available so everybody can come forward and feel their grievances with me and let it forward and do my best to listen to everybody and bring it forward for everyone.
I think council meetings are pretty transparent now. I've watched quite a few. And really, the only time you have in camera is when you've got a sensitive subject you have to, discuss, that you can't tip your hand to the world in general. So I think that they're doing fine. I don't think this is a giant conspiracy very well.
Ellie?
I believe in transparency, whether it's long and short. Yes, mayor and council, they need to keep us informed. How do we do that? Well, I would encourage everyone to attend council meetings and to read the newsletter, to subscribe to Facebook pages, and even the emails. I would also recommend attending all the functions that are about. There is barbecues, there's annual address, so they're just all there. So since coming to Peachland, I have attended several meetings. I have been there. There was a meeting today, and then I listened. I was informed. So generally, transparency, my vote already exists.
Well, yes, we do have the council meetings usually on your computer. Sometimes council meetings are hard to follow. I think we could have more public meetings. We had one the other day about taxation. I think why not have a meeting once a year to discuss the sewer system? I know half of Peachland are not on the sewer. Let's give them an update on an annual basis. Let's talk about the water treatment plant. How much capacity do we have? So I think we can have more public meetings discussing issues that concern citizens. Yes, being available to people, that's the key. I think everyone here recognizes that. I certainly do.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that voting will take place between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. at the Community Center, March 4th, March 11th, and general voting is March 14th. For the last question will be a 1-minute closing statement for each candidate, starting with Nick.
We've heard a range of opinions this evening from this table, and many of them are very good. We agreed on a lot of topics. However, there were several topics that I made note of that I disagreed with quite substantially. And the one thing that I disagreed with is the lack of desire to include citizens in the process. I've observed this community for 12 years. I've watched the outrage politics on all the social media channels, and it's always the result of citizens not being apprised of what's going on. It would be nice if you could all attend meetings all the time, but you're busy. You've got businesses, you've got kids, you've got relatives, you've got farms, you've got things to do. You can't be running down to babysit the council every time there's a meeting. So you need your representatives representative to be able to
Eric?
Well, we'll be available for questions after this, but, I'm very proud to live in a democracy and I value free speech. We can speak our mind, we can disagree with the government, we're free to do that. It's something of real value. And this evening, I respect and value the other candidates. I think they're all good people, so we have good options going forward with our voting. If I'm elected, I guarantee you I'll be available and answer phone calls and emails. And, I'm very proud of the people showing up because in this community, people are concerned about the future. So everybody here this evening wants to know about the future of their community. We want to keep it the kindest community. I'm proud of that. And I'd also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce. I think they do a great job of putting on this meeting. So thank you, Jonathan, and the Chamber.
Tonight we talked about very important issues. They shape the future of our community. The good news is in Peachland, we don't shy away from tough, hard conversations. We just continue them the next day at Liz or Photo Peach. What matters most is how we move forward with respect, collaboration, and shared commitment to doing what's best for everyone who calls this place home. I'm not running to have the loudest voice. I am running to be the steady one. To listen carefully, to think long term, and make decisions that reflect both practical wisdom and community heart. I will work hard and stay accessible. Our future deserves thoughtful community leadership because at the end of the day, Peachland isn't just where we live, it's who we are.
Thank you. I love Peachland. I made a real conscious choice to come here. I don't think there's anything, this town doesn't have any major flaws. This is all just kind of tweaks in order to make it better. So I support economic growth that respects Peachland's roots. I support local businesses. As I said before, I think we try to develop a year-round economy. And common sense means simple. I'd like you to vote for me.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. This is fantastic. Bigger turnout than I expected. And this is actually a very new thing for me to be standing out here talking to everybody. So it's been quite the experience. And I would like to just invite everybody to come over and talk to me one-on-one whenever they want, or grab a card, grab my phone number, and give me a call anytime. Biggest thing, let's talk and let's work things out. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank everyone for coming. Maybe another round of applause for the candidates. I know I'm sweating here, so we're doing a great job. We just want to remind everyone that the candidates will return to their tables and are available for one-on-one discussions if there was questions you have that weren't asked tonight. Thank you again for coming and travel home safely.